Joining us now, we've been looking forward to this for a long list of reasons for a while here. He's Director of Career Development at Mount Vernon Nazarene University. Welcome to the show, Gary Swisher.
Thank you.
Hi, Dad.
Thanks for having me. Hi, dear. How are you?
I'm good.
We all just melted. Your dad's here, Daria. Your dad's here.
God. You're more excited than the both of us put together, Brian.
Now, before we start, of course, you have lots of professional reasons to be with us, but tell us about your Daria. I know you're probably a proud dad.
Okay. Well, the first thing I want to say is all the stories that she's shared about me are not true. And I don't even know what all of them are. Because usually when she's on, I'm getting ready to go to work. Well, I'm sleeping a lot of that time too. But so I think she wants to make radio interesting, and that's why the stories are so bad.
That's great, Gary.
Yeah, so I was actually trying to think of some stories, and I think the older I get, the more they start to fade, believe it or not. She knows there's some stories we keep retelling over and over, like we've never said them before. That's what parents do.
Yes.
But, Daria was the perfect child, and that was the problem, because she was trying to make us better from about 4 years old. So that was the biggest challenge, and she was a very structured child and played by the rules, and if we didn't play by the rules, she let us know.
Isn't that fascinating? Where with my kids, I see this too, where there's certain attributes that you don't put in them. The Lord just put it there. Exactly.
Yes, and it may be too soon, but that's a good segue. But we can talk more about Daria if you want. But I'm really trying to remember, the really embarrassing stories. And
you couldn't come up with one?
Well, let's see. She was this is not necessarily a story, just a characteristic. She was deathly afraid of escalators.
Yeah.
and she may be able to remember more about this than me.
When I was 3 years old, I was at the mall with you and Mom, and I think you both thought that the other one had my hand, and so I got stuck at the top, and Mom, it wasn't a big deal, but like to a kid who's 3, Mom like freaks out, oh my gosh, my child is at the top, so she starts running and panicking, and so I would anytime I had to get on an escalator till the age of 12, I would sob.
They are scary. I can't remember. Was she running the wrong way up?
Yeah, she was trying to get back up the steps to me, and it was it was a non-issue. It was over in 5 seconds, but as a 3-year-old, that's traumatic.
Yeah.
They are scary devices. I was always looking at them like, what if I get sucked in there?
My niece, when she was 3, one time, my sister took her on and didn't realize she had never been on one, and she fell backwards, going up. So she was just going up, head down, up the escalator.
Scary.
Oh, no.
But now, I had a psychologist friend tell me at one point, Gary, that when you encounter a woman who is confident and strong and just healthy, it's usually because she was loved very well by her father. And so you must be an excellent dad.
Oh, well, that could be. That's good to hear.
I can attest to that.
Oh,
well, thank you. Oh, okay.
As much as we'd all love to melt all day long about your father-daughter relationship, I'm intrigued by your work at Mount Vernon Nazarene University, again, Director of Career Development. For those who don't know what you would do in that type of job, what are you doing as a Director of Career Development?
Yeah, I usually refer to it as kind of a 3-legged stool. So on the front end is probably the most interesting stuff is, career decision making. So a student that doesn't know what they want to do in life, what they want to major in, we do assessments and processes to kind of help them figure things out. The second part is kind of the planning and development. Okay, so I know what I want to go into. What do I need to be thinking about? What do I need to do to be preparing? And that usually a big part of that would be internships. And then the third part is the one that everybody's probably most cognizant of, which is, how do I put a resume together? How do I find job postings, do interviews, and things like that? There's a few other little things in there, like, how do I get into graduate school? But those are the 3 big pieces.
Well, see, I have an 18, 17, and 16-year-old, so I can really connect with that career decision thing. Because to be honest, it's hard for a kid that's 18 years old to make a decision that'll impact the rest of their lives. If they have lots of interests, how do you even come to that conclusion? So how do you begin that journey of guiding a young person towards a career?
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is so true. I tell students it's really unfortunate that you have to make big decisions about the rest of your life when you have the least amount of information
Right.
to do that. So it is about information, and the first point of information is things about you. And so, the age group that you're talking about, and as the generations progress, this gets to be more of a challenge, have not typically had enough life experiences to know that much about themselves. They've known themselves all their lives, but they've never thought in terms of, what are my preferences? How does my personality work? How am I wired? What are my interests? And that's where we get into things like assessments and exploring past activities to see what kind of, puzzle pieces we can find in those different life events.
And see, I've always wondered too if like the way public school or even private school works, there's a particular archetype of a student that is successful, but that personality type, right, is praised all the time. Someone who's not like that may feel like they don't fit anywhere.
Yes, and I was that one. I was that person. So Daria is the achiever and the compliant one typically, unless she disagrees, and then she's not compliant. But I was the one, the sort of like I hated school. I was not involved in all kinds of things. I was involved in things on my own. Doing an assessment when I was in my own sort of career redirection process later in life, I learned about, we get into the Myers-Briggs here, I learned that, I always knew that I was introverted, but I learned about these other aspects of my personality. And it turns out, so there's 16 personality types in the Myers-Briggs, and the percentages of those 16 are not equal. So if you are introverted, you're in the minority. And then there's another scale of intuitive versus sensing. And if you're intuitive, you're also in the minority. And if you have both of those, you're in a very small minority in the U.S. population. Extroverts and people with a sensing preference tend to be majority. So they fit in better, they connect better, and they a lot of times figure things out sooner. But there's two different problems with, you mentioned somebody with lots of interests. That's a challenge because there's personality types that are just interested in everything or lots of things. There's personality types that don't know what their first interest is, and so you've got both extremes there. So yeah, those are real things that. But for me, it was a sort of like, okay, this is normal for me. When I read my Myers-Briggs personality description, I realized I've been this way all my life, and I'm not the only one. And so that was sort of validating and said, okay, God wired me this way for a reason. How can I plug it into what works best?
We call him Director Dad. I do, at least, because he's Daria's dad. Oh, my goodness. Gary Swisher, he's Director of Career Development at Mount Vernon Nazarene University. I got to tell you, I've got a bunch of teenagers right now and some littler guys. It's really hard to guide kids towards their career path in life. It can be a difficult journey. And for someone who's thinking of a career change, you just kind of go, I know I don't like this, but I don't know what I should do. Oftentimes, personality assessments like the Myers-Briggs can be a great way to figure all that out. So our Director Dad had all four of us take the Myers-Briggs, and I think the results were strange. Lauren's like, no. Daria, can you explain to your dad what happened on our team?
Yeah, so between the four of us, there are only two personality types represented. Brian and I are both INTJs. Lauren and Ron are both ISTJs.
The most amazing thing is that you're all introverts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you talk for a living.
Strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, when you do it, it's not strange. To most people outside of what we do, wait, you're an introvert? Look at you. You're talking to a bunch of people every day. No, we're not.
We're talking to each other. We're talking to four people.
In our world, it's a very small group of people. We just forget about all the rest of you. And I'm talking right now to Lauren and Daria and Ron and Gary.
Exactly.
Plus, introverts really thrive off really deep conversation.
Yes.
And that's what we do.
So in that context, it makes some sense. But what do you make of us with two personality types that are so unique?
Yeah, that is really interesting. So we have you said INTJs and ISTJs?
Yep.
So you're even interesting is you're only one you're almost all the same personality type except for the one letter.
Is that good?
I wouldn't think so. Although it's probably better than, because you're all structure oriented. That's good because you're going to get along better. You know what's happening. You know what's coming. Right? Is that a good dynamic on your team? Is like we like organization.
Yes. In fact, radio sounds free form, but it's very structured. It's rigidly structured. And so we do a lot of planned improvisation, So let's break down Ron and Lauren first. I want to pick on them. ISTJs. Tell us about that personality type.
Okay. Well, the I is for introvert. Most people have a pretty good sense about introversion, extroversion, but it's not about necessarily, and I made this same, assumption, how much you talk. It's really about where your energy is directed. Introverts have lots of internal energy. Extroverts, people on the outside look at introverts and they think they're quiet. Well, they don't understand there's a lot going on inside. So that's the I. The S is the sensing part. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Sensing is like you are in tune with the real physical world. The real stuff is what matters to you. Like abstractions and concepts and theories are sort of like not the focus. The T is your decision-making process. It's for thinking versus feeling. So thinking folks like to have logic and consistency. Things have to make sense, as opposed to the feeling preference, which is sort of like, I don't feel like that right now. I feel like, everybody uses both preferences, by the way, but the dominant function for ISTJs is I want to have, a logical process. And then the J is like a lifestyle thing. So it stands for judging, but it doesn't mean judgmental. J means I like to know what's expected. I like to follow the process. Typically don't like surprise. That's where the really hard structure kinds of things come in.
Now, Lauren was over here nodding and making faces because I think she might be a little judgy too, but
she is not.
So does that resonate with kind of your inner person, Lauren?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that look like for you? So you like your structure, you like being alone?
No, I have internal energy. That's what he just said, Brian.
Wow, sassy too. Is that part of that? Is the S sassy?
Yeah, I think sassy was part of the description.
Ron,
I'm just kidding.
Ron, does that resonate with you and how he described that?
Yeah, I don't like surprises.
Mm-hmm.
When Gary mentioned that, I thought, yeah, that fits. That you're planning to do this work today, and suddenly, a tool breaks that you need to do that job or something that makes me unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
So now, how would you advise their personality type to consider careers? Now, don't change your jobs, guys. We like you here, but if they were going to do that,
if they were in that process, there's some pitfalls, and that is not to consider things that that they haven't been exposed to, or ISTJs can get very focused on like this is the way that's. Usually it's more of a I've already decided, and I'm not going to look at other possibilities. And if you only had one idea about a career to go into, and it may be not the best, there might be better things out there for you. It's a little hard to get them to switch tracks. So you want to try to be open to exploring and just see what else is there, so that you can maybe identify something. They don't want to have to switch. Okay, does that resonate, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Does it?
Yeah, it resonates for me, Ron.
Yeah, I don't want to switch. I'm
You've been
too
doing
old.
So now, what's a good fit for them in terms of career path and that personality type?
Yeah, I actually have. I don't know how much of this you want to take time on, but there's with the process I use. We have a report that tells you what I need in a career for it to be satisfying.
Oh.
There's 5 points. If you want me to take time, I can read those 5 points
Sure.
for them.
Yeah, let's go through.
Okay. So number 1 is a stable and traditional work environment with a clear reporting structure and explicit expectations. Number 2 is the opportunity to work on one project at a time with plenty of time to plan my work and execute it without interruption. 3, work that involves real products and services where I can see the immediate results of my efforts and where I'm evaluated on my merits. 4 is a promotional system that rewards my hard work, experience, and accomplishments with increasing levels of responsibility and compensation. And the last one, opportunities to develop and then use my technical skills in subjects I can see the practical use of and fully understand.
So now these are the, for some people who haven't done personality assessments, you can just kind of go like, what good is this stuff? But what's wild is Lauren's across from me nodding the whole time. This describes you pretty well, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
In fact, I was laughing because last week, the most animated she ever was the entire week was as she was declaring to all of us how great it was when nobody was here. And she was all
not
alone.
knowing you and Josh weren't here for 2 days, and I got so much done.
Lauren and I were production machines when you guys were gone.
But your life is so much more boring when we're not here talking to you.
Not
and
internally.
Don't say anything. Don't say
Not
anything.
internally. It's very thriving when you're gone.
So now the big and most important question becomes, for the better, I mean, different personality type that Daria and I have, how does that vary? So we were just describing the ISTJ. How would an INTJ be different?
Yeah, and I can read all those too, but the main difference there is that one letter, which is intuitive. We haven't talked about that. So it's opposite the sensing. And the sensing, again, is like I'm in the real world dealing with real stuff. Intuitive is more like I'm stepping back to look at the big picture, and I read between the lines. I'm looking at the things that might be or could be, and maybe being a bit of an architect with those kinds of things. So that's the intuitive nature. So you're a little bit more abstract, conceptual, big picture oriented, and not necessarily just focused on like the real physical things in your life. Okay?
That sounds better.
No, it doesn't.
They're just different. No one is better, Brian.
I'm just telling you it sounds better. But I mean, Daria, does that resonate with you, how he says that?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's a lot of what I do for my work.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I'm looking at a story and I'm seeing the facts, but I'm trying to see like behind them to find those deeper conversation points and larger issues. So I feel like that's a good fit for what I do. Please tell me that.
I would agree. I mean, that is important to, like the big picture thing is what you're doing a lot of every day, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I understand you also were in a different career.
Yes, I was a high school teacher for 6 school years before, and that's where most of my higher education is, well, all of it is completed, is in education training. And then I came into radio.
So I'll be the interviewer now. Were there things about that didn't work for you?
Teaching?
Yeah. Or tell us about your transition.
People thought it was nutty. Like, why would a teacher go and do this? But honestly, a lot of the skills that I had and the things I like to do, which is the actual teaching part of it, the outside things from teaching, I did not like at all. But the idea of taking something complex and making it, communicating it to people in a way that connected to their souls and was understandable, that's what I did on a daily basis with high school students. And in many ways, yes, in many ways, I'm doing the very same thing now. So a lot of transferable skills and passions, but I did not like grading. That was the worst ever. I didn't like the meetings. I didn't like the planning. I didn't like any of that.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm kind of similar to you guys as well. So I'm an INTP.
Oh, what's that?
The part that's different is that like I am not into rigid structure.
No, you're not.
P is the big difference. Here's a story. I got a good story.
Good.
We went on family bike rides. Okay. So the P likes to just be open and flexible and see what happens and develop and adjust as things go. So I like to explore. When I get out on a bike or get out hiking on a trail, it's like, well, just go this way or I'll go that way. So we would do the family biking trips. And I'm like, this is great. We're just riding off wherever we want and just, I would see a dirt path off of a pavement path and I say, let's go that way. And Daria is in misery because
as is your wife, because she's also a J.
She's very compliant, Daria. So that works for me. So Daria is in misery because she's like, I want to know where we're going. What time are we going to get there? What is this
exactly
about?
Right.
When's lunch?
I have no idea what's happening here. Yeah. She gets hangry if she misses one. She's worse than me.
Me too.
But she hated that situation because there wasn't like a clear end goal of here's what we're shooting for. Here's the expectation. That drove her crazy, I'm sure. But I had fun. That's kind of what mattered.
But that's so helpful to hear. Thank you for sharing that, because oftentimes what we do is we presume that whatever we are thinking and feeling, that's what normal is.
Right.
And that can be, especially when your thinking and feeling is quite different than somebody else, especially in your family environment, you can start to think, oh, there's something wrong with me. But in this case, no, it's not better or worse, as much as I'm joking about that. It's just different, and that's okay.
Yeah, and this is probably just as an important application of Myers-Briggs as the career piece is relationships. Think about two people going on vacation. One is very, very structured. The other one is sort of like just wants to relax and keep it loose. You're going to have conflicts unless they start to understand each other and kind of compromise and compensate for those different styles.
Oh, yeah. That's my wife and I have had to figure that one out. Because I like a good trip and she likes a good vacation. Totally different experience. So now, and we're almost out of time here, but when you finish an assessment like this, I'd imagine there's kind of like a pile of career options, like areas to explore. Is that right?
To some extent, yeah. So there's actually two assessments I use in tandem. So this is the one on personality. There's another one that's on interests. So the piece that I read to you for the ISTJ is the most important part of the Myers-Briggs to me. And so that gives you here's the ideal kind of position based on those 5 points. The interest inventory is the one that brings in lots of possibilities, but those are based on your interest. And when those two assessments line up, that tells us a lot. So if you see a career that's really interesting when you read about it or, explore it, then the question is, okay, it's interesting. How well does that fit my personality, the particular role that we're talking about? So there's a different assessment to really bring in a lot of things to explore, but it always brings us back to, okay, does that fit your personality type?
This is really great stuff. I'd imagine folks would like to learn more and think more about it. There's plenty of free assessments on the internet. They're not difficult to track down and find. But I certainly would love to take a quick moment and direct people where Gary Swisher, again, our guest, Daria's dad. Gary Swisher is Director of Career Development at Mount Vernon Nazarene University. If folks want more information about your place of employment, how can they get that?
Yeah, you can actually just get on our website. You'd think I would know that.
nvnu.edu.
I'm trying to get you to the particular page, but I don't know the URL. It's
/ career development.
Thank you. You got it. She's got it right there. See, she's the structured one. She's planned ahead, and she had it all figured out.
It's also my alma mater.
And it's her alma mater.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can find my contact information on those pages.
Wonderful. Thanks again for taking the time, Gary. Really had a lot of fun, and thanks for raising such a wonderful woman. We're grateful for her on the team.
Amen.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. It was fun being on with Daria and all of you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Gary. Yeah, and Lauren, you were looking up. I mean, there's so many different personality assessments out there, but I'm actually thinking now I need to take with my kids. I need to have them go through this one.
That'd be fun.
It's so helpful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And especially hearing Daria and her dad and their difference, like that bike ride thing is so helpful.
Yeah.
It's not that his way is better, because his way sounds more fun, to be honest with you.
Not to me.
Let's go on an adventure, right? But I mean, like stereotypically.
In theory, yes.
In theory,
for my personality type, no.
You want to know where you're going
That's
and how long it's going to take and what time you'll be back. And
structured and planned fun, particularly that includes lunch.
And see,
I'm not trying to go on a path I don't know how long I'm going to be on that for.
Yeah, and see, for someone who likes that type of adventure, you guys sound boring.
Well,
but to you, it's fun to plan something out and execute it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let me take a vacation with my spreadsheet.
Oh.
You put the restaurants you want to go to. You put the sites you want to see on it. You put how much the price is.
Takes a lot of the stress out, I'm sure.
Come on.
How does Eddie feel about that?
Great. He doesn't have to think about anything.
You guys take nerd vacations.
Let's see what the spreadsheet says today.
No.
What's the sum total of the...
What?
A spreadsheet for vacation. You know how many people hear a spreadsheet for vacation and want to like get physically ill?
I think they would like it, and they'd like my template for them so that they can go to London and Brazil and have a great time because I've already planned it for them.
Yes, ma'am.
There you go.